Audi A6 C6 chassis, also known as A6 4F. This model was produced from 2005 to 2011 with a facelift about 2008. We're gonna replace brake discs, also known as rotors and brake pads, in this car, and we're gonna show you how to do it. For the front discs and pads, see a link in the video description. Also, you'll find some extra useful information in the video description. Because it has an electronic parking brake, there are two ways to rewind calipers. First one, an easy one, just get the scanner. These days you can get easily scanner that can rewind calipers. If you like to DIY on your car, it's nice to have a scanner. I'm going to show you how to do it, and I'm going to explain how the other method works. OBD plug is located just here under the dashboard. You easily find it. Then before you do rewind of caliper, you have to make sure that your handbrake is off, and we put the ignition on. You need to make sure you have strong battery and charged, so we don't get glitch on our electronic parking brake. And so we select EPB, electronic parking brake. We find our car, European, Audi. Electronic parking brake. Audi A8 has some matching function mode. It only applies for Audi A8. It just controls thickness of the brake pads, so we don't have it, so we press no. Standard warning: if you make sure your voltage is over 12 volt, wait for this to end before performing another, otherwise system may be damaged. So we have three functions: open parking brake, close, and parking brake test. Parking brake test we're gonna do later. So first we're gonna open it. So open parking brake, and we press start, and you can hear it rewinding all the way. And then you get the error on the dashboard that parking brake malfunction. Don't worry about it, it's just a car notifies you that something is not usual going on. Now we can switch off the ignition, so we save the battery. I'm gonna take the key out, and we go back to our caliper. First, what we're going to do is remove these two 13mm bolts. They are attached to nuts here, so these nuts will start spinning, eventually turning together with the bolts. So we're gonna counter hold with 15mm spanner. A bit rusty, so we applied some WD-40, and we start turning. Once it starts turning, we counter hold and take bolt like this out. Same story for the bottom. Probably best to use socket, so it's better grip on a rusty bolt. There we go. I'm gonna use this canister to support caliper, because we don't want to hang it on a brake line. The only thing that will hold is brake line and electric connection for the electric parking brake. So now you can wiggle it out. You can use help of a screwdriver if you want. But this is our caliper. This is how it works. When you press your brakes, brake fluid goes inside the piston, and then your caliper squeezes brake pads upon a disc. This is the electric part, motor for the handbrake. That's the electric connection, and it held to the caliper by two bolts. I think they're like Allen, no, they Torx. One and 2. So if you don't have a computer to rewind the pistons, because if you're gonna push the piston back to fit bigger, thicker pads, you need to push piston back, but electronic parking brake won't let you do it because it's all the way up to here if you don't rewind it, as we did with the computer. So to rewind it without the computer, you remove this, clean it up, remove these 2 little bolts, take the motor off, and there will be like a square hole, so you rewind that hole inside manually. We're not gonna remove it because there is no need for that. It's just an option for you. So I'm gonna put it here, so there is no pressure on the brake line or electric connection. Now we can take these pads off. They're not too bad, but the disc is pretty bad. So normally with the new pads you get new little bolts and new springs that prevent pads from knocking. In order to remove disc, we need to remove this little T30 bolt. Should be not too bad. I already applied some WD-40 on the inside, but it should be okay. The other problem is, because of the way this bracket sits here, we won't be able to take the disc out without removing the bracket, so we need to remove the bracket. And there are 2 21mm bolts on the back that are holding the bracket. Forgot to mention, don't rely on jack on its own. I use some stands as well, just to be safe, because you get under the car, you never know what can happen to the jack. Should be pretty reliable. So now back to the business. Our 2 bolts are located on the inside. Bolt 1, bolt 2. I lubricated them with WD-40 already. 21mm. We're gonna use some, they can be really hard. We're gonna use brake bar. I have to apologize, they're not 21, they're 18. 21 is the front, maybe not on this car. I think this car could be 21 as well. Doesn't matter, it's 18mm. I'm gonna use a brake pad. They are a bit tricky to get to, but we'll get there. I'm gonna push it away, so it can be. No, it wasn't too bad at all, not bad at all. One is loose, and another one. We'll try to access it from funny angle. There we go. Slowly but surely it's moving. Now I'm gonna take a ratchet and finish the job. There appeared to be not enough space for the ratchet, so we're gonna use spanner, 18mm. Nice and easy. So finishing off by hand, I'm gonna take these bolts out as well. We can clean them, maybe apply some lubrication on them, and we take our bracket, and it has lots of residue of brakes, so we're gonna take it away somewhere and clean it with a metal brush. Especially these bits here, try not to breathe in, because it's not that good. It's not as bad. I googled it, it's okay for health, not too bad as back in the day when they used asbestos. Still, we take T30 Torx, and we can hold it a little bit, push as much in as you can so you don't break the bolt. There we go. This bolt secures disc in its place. Originally disc is held by bolts of the wheel. This one is just to help hold it, but it should be holding pretty hard anyway, because it got rusty. So we take a hammer and give it a few taps and take it off, and then take our lovely brush, clean it up. We're gonna put some copper grease here so it doesn't get stuck in the future. Nice and easy. So we can use a bit of copper grease here just to make sure that our disc doesn't get stuck in the future here. So sometimes they can be pretty badly stuck, not in our case. Don't splash it too thick, don't make it too much, so it doesn't get splashed into your braking surfaces. Just a tiny little layer, just to make it nice and smooth. Now we take our new disc. Sometimes they come in oil to prevent them from rusting. So what we want to do is apply brake and clutch cleaner, just to make sure there is no grease on our disc. Do it on both sides. And then we put it on, matching this little hole with the hole in the disc. And then we tighten up this little bolt that just secures disc in its place. It's not very big tightening torque, only 5 Newton meters. So don't go crazy on it. Like that will do. Now we need to push our piston back. To do so, we need to open the brake fluid reservoir and put some tissues underneath, just to let the air out as we push liquid back in. Your brake fluid is located there, as this sign suggests. You take it off, wrap it around with the tissues so it doesn't get on paintwork. Just raise it a little bit, just let the air out, and just leave it like that till we finish the job. A few ways of pushing piston back. Unlike cars with manual handbrake, you don't need to push and turn at the same time. This one's work same as the front, you just need to push them in. You can use some massive pliers, I've seen people doing that, but good way of doing it. I've got this useful tool set. I got it on eBay for pretty cheap. I used it on many cars, and you have some adapters with the pins, but you take one without the pin and you use this tool like that. By turning it, you're pushing piston in. I'm gonna show you now. So this is how you do it. You apply it here and then simply start turning. It will push piston back and push it all the way it goes. You just will simply fill it that it doesn't go any further. It goes pretty easy. Once it got to the end, it goes hard, you can simply turn it back, or you can alternatively 22 millimeter thing, spanner, just turn it to release the pressure. And that's it. Our piston is all the way back and it can fit a set of new pads and disc. I used a little bit of WD-40 to get rust off on these little bolts, and then we, not so little, 18 millimeter, and we put our bracket back on. Oh, one more thing that not many people do, these pins that hold the caliper goes in and out, and as it squeezes, so it's nice to lubricate them. They don't look too bad, but to make sure they are nice, use some heat resistant grease that can hold the heat, because brakes get hot. And then make sure rubber sleeve pops on back like that, and do the same to the other one. This one is pretty dirty. Now we're putting our bracket back where it belongs. Different sources say different tightening torques for these bolts. It's all about 80-90 Newton meters if you want to use torque wrench. So they are tight. Don't go crazy onto them, but they must be pretty tight because they hold brakes. Some source says if you're using new bolts it's 90 Newton meters plus 90 degrees more. If it's you reusing bolt, as most people probably will do, then just go by feel, because if you try to apply extra 90 degrees then it can be a bit harsh. Just make sure they are proper tight. Now we're gonna put a pair of new springs, nice and shiny, and one at the top. New brake pads as well, will fit in here, and another one from another side. I just do it by feel, not to obstruct your view. There we go. What I normally do as well, we put some little bit of copper grease on these contact surfaces that contact brake pads on the other side. Make sure you don't get any of the grease on braking surface, just a little bit tiny. Now we're putting our caliper back over the brake pads and insert our new shiny little bolts. Tightening torques for this one is 35 Newton meters, counter hold with 15 millimeter. Don't put 15 millimeter spanner too far here, because it's just some little silly design. When it gets tight, it just can jam the spanner. So once it catches here, as it gets tighter, it just stays there anyway. So just counter hold it first turns, and then as it gets tight, you just take it out. 35 Newton meters. So 35 Newton meters, it's about this tight. Sorry, I'll use the bottom one. 35 Newton meters is about this tight. There we go. Now this side is done. Do the same to the other side, and then check if you don't have any leaks here. And looks like we don't. Clean it up if it leaks a little bit, and then put it back together. Before you go anywhere, because your pistons need to be pumped up, so you need some liquid in your pistons. So before you go anywhere, press the brake pedal a few times properly, firmly, so you get it nice and tight. And then once we're done, I'll do the another wheel the same way. I'm not gonna show you. I'm gonna show you how to rewind calipers back in with the computer. We've completed the other side, and brake fluid level came up all the way to the top and a little bit to the excess. So what we're going to do now, we're gonna pump the brakes. We're gonna press the brake pedal a few times so the brake fluid goes back a little bit, and then we'll see on what's going on with the level. So after pressing brake pedal a few times, the level has dropped. It took some fluid. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna clean up a little bit. Try not to get it onto your car's paintwork, because it can eat the paint, apparently. And then we'll close this. Sorted. Now we're gonna reset the parking brake. Now we're resetting parking brake again. Electronic parking brake. No, we don't have A8. Yes, it's over 12 volts. We go to close parking brake, and we press start. And it's successful. So we can go back a little bit, and then we can perform parking brake test. Start. It opens and closes parking brake. and it's all success. And that's it. All done. More information about this car. I have quite a few videos about this car and some other cars. See my website, WheelsAndMotors.com.